When the British left the EU, most of the United Kingdom became a third country. Trade is now subject to customs control and online ordering is becoming more difficult. Although Brexit was not unregulated and chaotic at the last minute, many details have still not been finally clarified, and even where the situation appears to be regulated, market participants have to continuously watch whether the existing regulation change in terms of content. If one can rely within the EU on the fact that the relevant regulations apply throughout the EU, it is not necessary to continuously monitor what changes in the economic areas that have since been separated. In the past, the British Isles were one of the preferred trade routes into the EU by Chinese suppliers because it was entirely possible to avoid all import duties and deliver the goods to mainland Europe without customs controls. This path was blocked with Brexit, because now there are customs controls again between the UK and mainland Europe. The fact that not all the details of the customs processing have been clarified means that logistics companies no longer accept products for transport that could result in a longer stay in customs processing. The framework conditions for trade between Great Britain and the European Union have changed in several points with Brexit. This applies to both the import of British goods into the EU and the export from the EU to the UK. The fact that the so-called named or notified bodies between the UK and the EU are no longer recognized means that corresponding declarations of conformity are no longer valid in the other economic area, but are instead made anew. However, it is possible that a notified body in the other economic area takes over the existing data sets and creates a new declaration of conformity in English based on them. In individual cases, however, another fee-based examination may be necessary. At the moment, the country-specific regulations only differ in terms of content in the letterhead. When the EU requirements were converted into the new independent British system, only these were exchanged in the first round. Whether this will remain so in the long term is currently not foreseeable. One advantage in this situation is certainly the fact that the CEN or CENELEC standards are retained. Nothing has changed in the area of recycling requirements where national law generally applies, except that the WEEE directive no longer applies in England, Wales and Scotland. The fact that the European CE marking largely lost its validity with Brexit and was replaced by the UK CA marking for England, Wales and Scotland makes trade between the two economic areas a little more complicated again. In the case of Northern Ireland, the situation is even more difficult because there the CE marking still applies but must be provided with the additional UK NI marking if Northern Irish products are to be delivered to England, Wales or Scotland. The transition periods for the mandatory changeover of labelling for the UK market are not uniform. Both labels should still be possible for electrical and electronic products by the end of the year. There is a transition period for medical devices until June 30th, 2023. Then they require MHRA registration and UKCA marking, with Northern Ireland again being the exception. In the case of toys that previously had a CE mark, this will be replaced by the UKCA mark for the UK. Since the relevant regulations require that respective identification on the nameplate dominates, manufacturers and importers will hardly be able to avoid attaching specific nameplates. It has not yet been conclusively clarified whether one can make do with simply adding another label to the nameplate. In the future, many deliveries are likely to get stuck in customs due to a lack of correct labeling. For electrical and electronic products, delivery across national borders to Germany was already prohibited as a result of the WEEE directive if the brand in question was not previously registered with a Stiftung for a fee in Germany. A German importer or an authorized representative is required for registration. In fact, this could hardly be checked as long as the UK was part of the EU, as there were no customs borders in the internal market. And still don't are, but with Brexit they are there. With Brexit, this situation has fundamentally changed. If the relevant market supervisory authority, in this case the Federal Network Agency or the Federal Environment Agency, becomes aware of a violation of the relevant regulations, they can inform the Customs Administration, which prevents the imports of products that violate existing regulations. While the situation after Brexit is only associated with work and costs for regular importers, the challenge for a private online order in the UK now is that the supplier from the UK adjusts to the new situation, or customs the corresponding shipment waved through without objection. And that is not the case that often. So the checks here are full in force, and so they will not just wave stuff through. They will check it. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.